Good afternoon, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lenapehoik, and Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for meetings upon request. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact cwc@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. So this is the 8th meeting of the Civic Works Committee. In chambers, we have Councillor McAllister, Councillor Cuddy, Councillor Trosso, and myself. And online, we have Councillor Van Meerbergen joining us. And we also have 2 visiting councillors today. We have Councillor Frank and Councillor Pribble. Welcome, everyone. I will go to item number 1, disclosures of pecuniary interest. Councillor Trosso.
Yes, I'm going to declare a pecuniary interest on item 2.4 regarding the Broughdale Dyke on account of the fact that I live in the immediate vicinity. I own property and reside in the immediate vicinity.
Thank you. So what we'll do is we will deal with items 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 under consent first, and then we'll deal with 2.4 separate. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for 2.1 through 2.3. I see Councillor Van Meerbergen, followed by Councillor Cuddy for first and second. Any questions or comments about items 2.1 through 2.3? Councillor Pribble.
Just a quick question through the chair to the staff. In regards of the 2.3, the consulting fees, I just want to make sure that I understood it correctly. The 83 ask for 83,000 increase for the consulting, but then it states that it will be reimbursed by the contractor. Is it the same amount, 83,000, or is it going to be less? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Ms. Scheer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to turn that question over to Ms. Chambers.
Thank you. Ms. Chambers, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Through the chair, the total 83,000 will be covered by the contractor. This report is effectively, we have to increase the purchase order to the consultant, so it's a bit of a flow through. So we'll get the money from the contractor and then we can increase and pay the consultant.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Just to follow up, so it's going to be the same amount. The only thing is process-wise, we have to increase it, approve it, and but the project is going to be same amount.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional questions on 2.1 through 2.3? Seeing none, I'll call the question.
I vote yes.
Closing the vote, the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll look to deal with item number 2.4, which is the Broughdale Dyke Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Funding Contribution Agreement. I'll note that Councillor Trosso has left the room, and sorry, he's sitting in the back of the room but not participating in the conversation. And I'll look to committee for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by Councillor McAllister. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I will look, I'll open the vote for this item.
Closing the vote, the motion passed 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving along quite quickly. We have no scheduled items. We have one item for direction, which is in your package as an added, and it was a letter from Councillor Frank. The letter pertains to the climate action and sustainable growth, specifically looking at a strategy on zero plastic waste. It includes 3 items in a motion. A, that Civic administration be directed to provide written feedback on the proposed plastic regulatory framework and technical document through the federal government process by May 18th, 2023 deadline. B, that Civic administration be directed to provide a copy of the written submission to Civic Works Committee at a future meeting. And C, the Civic administration be directed to provide a copy of the written submission to the Environmental Stewardship and Action Community Advisory Committee for information as part of ongoing discussions dealing with the blue bin transition in London. I'll look for a mover and seconder to put this item on the floor, and then to Councillor Frank if she has any further comment. Councillor McAllister and Councillor Cuddy. Thank you. And now that that item is moved and seconded, would anyone like to speak to it? Councillor Frank.
Thank you, and thank you for having me as a guest at your committee. I was made aware of this opportunity to provide feedback to the federal government last week, which is kind of why it's a bit last minute, but there is only a 1-month window, which is why I'm coming and hoping that we can move this along and work with staff to provide this feedback by May 18th, which is the deadline. As we've outlined in our strat plan, we are hoping to move towards a circular economy, and a very important part of that is phasing out the use of plastic wherever we can. And the federal government, I believe, is working their way through that process as well, trying to get the entire country to phase out plastic where possible. So I know that we have very knowledgeable staff on this area, and I'm hoping that this committee can support directing them to provide that kind of feedback to the federal government. And the federal government specifically outlined asking for input from municipalities, provinces, and other stakeholder groups. So I thought this would be an excellent opportunity. And I'm also not necessarily looking for something like too detailed from staff. I don't want to use up too much of their very, very valuable time, but I do think outlining maybe what London's priorities are in relationship to this framework would be really helpful. So that is why I brought it here.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments by committee members or visiting guests, visiting councilors? Councillor Trassa.
Just to thank you for coming and bringing this to our attention. It really could have slipped by given the very quick deadline, so thank you again.
Thank you. Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering if Mr. Stanford might be online or present, since he is coordinating our climate change response.
Yes, thank you. He's here in chambers. And Mr. Stanford, did you have anything to add?
Through the chair, is there a question? If not, I'm very comfortable with what is being requested here. It is a file that we've been following now for a number of years. It is something that is very important to London and many municipalities. The very notion of recycled content is something long overdue, as well as proper labeling. So what's being proposed here is not only going to benefit us, but benefit Canada.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, I'll call the vote on this item.
Closing the vote, the motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. There are no deferred matters, and I've not been made aware of any additional business. Item number 6 is adjournment, looking for a mover and a seconder to adjourn. And we've got Councillor McAllister and Councillor Cuddy with their hands up, and looking for a vote by hand. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. I don't know.